My teacher said, "You have quite a natural gift. Have you ever thought about taking private voice lessons?" I was an athlete. I played basketball, and my coach basically gave me an ultimatum, and he said, "You have to choose between the singing thing and your team."
We think of opera as a world of tradition, of grand stages and timeless stories. But what if the greatest performance is the journey just to get there? What if the most powerful voice is the one that breaks the mold?
This is the Adrenaline Zone, and today we're going behind the curtain into the world of opera with a voice that's redefining the art form.
Today, we have Janae Bridges. She's not just an opera singer, she's a force, a Grammy-winning mezzo-soprano who's captivating audiences around the world.
But this isn't just about talent, it's also about resilience and about overcoming obstacles and about finding your voice and using it to inspire.
And then I immediately thought, well, is it something that Black people do as well? Because when I thought of opera singers, I never thought of Black opera singers.
In this conversation, you'll discover the surprising ultimatum that launched Janae's opera career. And hint, it involved a basketball court.
The unconventional way she trains for her most physically demanding roles, and it's not what you'd expect.
The powerful impact of role models and how they changed her perception of what was possible.
The secret language of opera and how singers communicate with conductors on stage.
Unexpected challenges and sacrifices that come with the life in opera, how she's working to push musical boundaries and expand the art form.
Get ready to go behind the scenes of a world where passion meets discipline and where one voice can change everything. This is the Adrenaline Zone.
But first, many thanks to Culligan for sponsoring this season of the Adrenaline Zone.
With Culligan's drinking water systems, you can get the ultra-filtered water you need to fuel your high-performance lifestyle right on tap. Learn more at Culligan.com. So, Janae Bridges, welcome to the Adrenaline Zone. It's so nice to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited to have this conversation. And we usually start kind of at where it all began. So how did you first discover your passion for opera? And I know you grew up in the Army. Did that have any influence one way or the other?
Well, yeah, sort of. But so my parents have four children, and my younger brother and I, we didn't do all of the traveling that my older brother and sister did when my dad was, really active in the military. So I grew up in Lakewood, Washington, which is about 45 minutes south of Seattle. And that was his final station, and he retired there. And so I will say that while my dad's military career didn't directly impact my interest for singing, I think it did impact my love for travel, which is what I do, as an opera singer. It's something that not everyone has such a love for, but I love being on the road. And I do have to thank my dad's military career because I do remember traveling, even though, it was later in his career. I got the travel bug because it was just what we did. So that definitely had an influence on my love for the whole lifestyle of being an opera singer. Now, how I got into the actual art form is kind of funny. I mean, I didn't grow up singing opera at all. I grew up in the church, singing in the choir, gospel choir, and also some jazz and a little bit of pop, but more of popular music. And so I was in the choir in high school. You had to audition for the choir, and I got in, and my teacher said, "You have quite a natural gift. Have you ever thought about taking private voice lessons?" And so I said, "Well, no, but I do love singing, and I have a background in piano. I've played classical piano since I was 5 years old." So
Wow.
the classical music was always in my ear, just not classical vocal music. So when my high school teacher, said, "I think you have something, maybe start studying privately," I did, and I fell in love with it. So that's kind of how it all started. And then I ended up auditioning for conservatories and music schools around the country, and got accepted into the Manhattan School of Music in New York. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
But what about opera? Because jazz and opera are really different. So what drew you to the opera piece?
Well, yeah, I mean, my teacher, she recognized that I just had this gift where my voice would kind of overpower everyone else in the choir. And so as opera singers, we don't use microphones. Um, it's completely unamplified. It's the power of our own
I don't think I
diaphragm and
knew
all of
that.
the years of training. Yeah. So the fact that my voice was just had a natural resonance to it that really stood out, that gave her the idea, okay, maybe you should consider classical singing and opera. And I'll tell a quick story. I was an athlete. I played basketball, and I was going to college to play basketball, but my coach basically gave me an ultimatum, and he said, you have to choose between the singing thing and your team. And it was a really traumatic and dramatic,
Oh, wow.
very important game that he sat me on the bench for the whole time, and I was a captain. And I just remember thinking, this is a sign. I really started singing and loving it. And my coach just, I was so hurt back then, but in hindsight, it
Seemed
was,
to have worked out.
I think it worked out, and I still play for fun. So that's really nice. But when my choir teacher, suggested that I start studying privately, and I found a local teacher who I'm still very close with today, I went down the rabbit hole, and um, I loved this art form. I'd never been exposed to it. And then I immediately thought, well, is it something that, Black people do as well? Because when I thought of opera singers, I never thought of Black opera singers. And so she introduced me to some of the most incredible opera singers that are also Black American. And I just thought, wow, I could do this too. Why? I mean, I just didn't know. So it opened a whole new world, and I just really fell in love with it. So I was about 17 going on 18.
Wow.
So you dropped us off at I got into some conservatories and the rest is history. But there's has to be a lot more to this. I mean, much you have to do to become an opera singer. Languages, how you present yourself, the
Absolutely.
vocal challenges. Tell us, how did that, from there till you've got your first, role on a stage?
Well, I will say, I mean, this art form, being a musician in general, just takes a lot of discipline. I consider us athletes. And having been an athlete, it's a very similar practice in that you have to stay persistent, diligent. You have to deal with bad days and overcome them. So I went to Manhattan School of Music with very little knowledge of, opera and the classical voice. And I studied so hard. I mean, New York was my playground. So I was buying the cheap seats at the Metropolitan Opera and Lincoln Center and Carnegie Hall, and just infusing my whole being with classical music to try to catch up, for lack of better terms. And at MSM, Manhattan School of Music, I took languages: Italian, German, French, Spanish, Russian, because we sing in so many. I think I've sung in 11 languages at this point. And that's what opera singers do. We sing in many different languages because the art form comes from Italy.
Those darn composers didn't do it in English, come on.
Exactly. Although there are some amazing operas in English that I'm starting to sing.
Okay.
But the majority, Italian, French, German. So, I mean, the thing is, it's a constant working project. What do I want to say? It's a constant
work in progress. Yeah. I mean,
yes, work in progress. It never ends. So the goal is to be fluent in all of the languages. I'm conversational in many of them.
Wow.
But
that's impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of cool. And it's funny because it's just so second nature now. I don't really stand back and think about it and just actually marvel at all that I have done and have to do for this career. But it really is quite amazing. So the languages, and then I still take voice lessons, and I have voice coachings, which help with the kind of the style of it. And voice lessons are more technical because, we make this sound, but what you hear as an audience member is very different than what I hear. So we have to go off of feeling. So it's like it's a lifelong study, because the voice is also always changing. A singer doesn't really hit their prime into their mid 40s. So it's
So
a
you got a
long
long way to
game.
go.
Well, I don't know about long, but yes, I do have some time. I have some time. And so it's the long haul, and it's a lot of people, they quit, or they just say, I've had enough of this, because it really is a lot of investment. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of sacrifice as well. So I'm at a point now where I feel like, I've been doing this professionally for over 10 years, but I feel like I'm now just really hitting my stride, which is exciting, because I just feel there's so many doors being unlocked now, vocally, and also just personally. I approach music in a different way, having lived life a little bit.
So I want to rewind a bit, because I really believe in the power of role models. And you said something that really struck a chord in me, like thinking about, can a young Black girl do this? And it's sad that that question even comes to mind. But then, because when I first went to be an astronaut, there were no women astronauts. When I was
Wow.
a little girl, same thing, right? And you see that role model. Can you talk about these role models you've had and significant mentors? You mentioned your teacher who got you started, because it's just
Yeah,
so powerful, isn't it? To
it
have
is.
those.
And I have to say, it is amazing to meet you. You're the first woman astronaut I've ever spoken to. So this
Oh,
is
well,
really special.
so you're my first opera singer that I've ever
Wow.
spoken to.
It's
So
incredible. Yeah. So, there you go. It's about exposure. And there actually are quite a few, and there have been for some time, Black opera singers around the world. However, the exposure has just not been there, in the
yeah,
access. And so I'm so grateful, because I had that teacher who just said, look, you are represented here as well. And representation really does matter.
it
It's
does.
like when you
Agree.
feel like you've seen yourself, it just clicks into your mind. There's this shift that happens that says, oh, wow, this is possible for me too.
I can
Especially
do
when
this.
exactly,
Mhm.
especially when there are so many forces trying to make you believe
Yeah.
that it's not possible.
I was thinking about this a few minutes ago when you think about people auditioning for an role in an orchestra, and my understanding is they do it behind a screen, so nobody can see who's playing the instrument. But I don't think they can do that for you. They know who you
Yeah.
are. You're coming
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting practice. I think it's a good thing, and maybe also not so good, just because, uh, you know, certain people and demographics haven't had quite the opportunity. So it's like at some point you do have to give somebody a chance, even if the level is a little bit lower, so that they can have, the experience, and grow with it. Because opportunity is half the battle, you know? Um, so yeah, but I think opera's different. It's never been a blind audition type of situation, technically.
You live to embrace risk in the air, on the slopes, and anywhere your determination takes you. But when it comes to the drinking water that fuels your adventures, you're not looking to take chances.
With cutting-edge filtration that can target contaminants as small as a single atom, Culligan's reverse osmosis filtration systems deliver the next level hydration you need to keep working at peak performance, whatever the day brings.
Get started by scheduling your free water test at culligan.com. So, Janae, we caught you on a break, but it has to be a frenzy, life on the road for an opera singer, given
Oh
the
yeah.
preparation that's required for every single role,
Oh
memorization,
yeah.
private and public rehearsal. Isn't it difficult to transition between roles so fast and
Yes.
so often, and while you're traveling?
It is difficult, and it's funny that you mentioned this, because I probably had the most difficult transition just this past month. I sang two massive roles, both brand new to my repertoire, so they were debut roles. I sang in at Seattle Opera, Les Troyens by Berlioz, which is a French opera, and the role of Didon. And it was just, I was singing the whole time. She never shuts up, and it's a great role. It's a great role, but I took 2 years to prepare it,
Mm.
Oh
and
my
so
gosh.
directly after that, I flew I didn't even come home to DC. I flew directly to, or New York rather. I flew directly to DC, and I debuted another role at the Kennedy Center, Samuel Barber's Vanessa, and I played the role of Erica. And so everyone was asking me, how did you learn both of these huge roles? And it's about preparation. I mean, I just had to like literally count all the pages in both operas and and make a plan, and say every day I'm going to do this much either from this opera or that opera or both. And it's a huge investment financially too. I have to hire my voice coach, my language coach, um, and my voice technical teacher. So people see the final product on stage and it's glamorous and it's great, but it is a lot of work behind the scenes that goes into it, and you really have to love this thing, which I do. Um, but yeah, I would say a lot of preparation and navigation in terms of knowing what you can do. I took on these two roles because I knew that I could do it, and it was just a matter of preparing for it. So that comes with experience. I can't say I would have accomplished it in the same way 10 years ago, but having sung so many roles and had to yeah, just like know my limits and what I can do, I was able to do it.
So how do you, I mean, you talked about coaches. So you to prepare vocally, then you have a coach sort of helping you get the right notes
Good
and
question.
then emotionally, how do you even prepare for that? It
Exactly. So
sounds complicated.
yeah, there's a lot of aspects to it. I mean, there's technically, so my private voice teacher, I'll sing through it and she'll, you know, critique me or just advise on like placement in the body and the mask. We call the face the mask. Um, so, there's a way to sing, but there's a way to sing well, and so that's why I go to her. I can learn all the notes and I learn all the notes and I sing it well, but to have an outside pair of ears saying, no, I don't think that vowel is quite in the right spot for it to really project, or don't push, or you're, you know, singing under pitch. So that's the technical teacher. And then the stylistic coach helps me with phrasing and then also the actual rhythms, like singing the correct notes and delivering it stylistically so that it's appropriate for the character and for like the style of whatever composer I'm singing. Every composer has a different style. You have Mozart, you have Bellini, which is more bel canto, then you have Verdi, which is dramatic. So there are different ways um, in which you approach singing, but the technique is always the same, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
It's just the style that changes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so a couple of questions on the practice. They talk about athletes and how critically important it is to have quality practice because you can wear yourself out if you just don't do it right. I would imagine it's twice as important for a voice that you have to be
Absolutely.
so careful and everything has to be done so carefully or you'll wear yourself out, right?
Yeah.
Then you have to I would assume you listen to tapes of yourself after reviewing the film as an athlete would. So there's a lot of analogies there, right?
Oh, so many. Yeah. Definitely reviewing the film, which is like, always so difficult. It's like hard to hear myself, but it's a necessity. Yeah. I mean, it's very similar to being an athlete. Um, Reviewing the film. Um, Sometimes, like, I haven't quite reviewed the film from my last performance because I just need a day to enjoy what I did because I'm so critical,
We're always
so
our worst critics.
exactly,
Yeah.
which is a great thing, but it really takes a team, and it's also similar to being an athlete. It's like you need a team, not only for the actual delivery of, the music, but emotionally and mentally too, because we're constantly being critiqued. I don't really read reviews so much anymore because they just
Yeah.
They all have to find something. They have to all find something
Exactly.
negative to
That's a
say,
job.
or they lose their
Right.
credibility. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So I'm just like, okay, that sounds like a personal problem that I don't even need to be a part of. Um, yeah,
That's their problem,
but
not mine.
exactly.
I like that.
But it's really quite yeah, it's quite the life, you know. My family follows me all around the world, and it's kind of like giving them new life as well because they're like, wow, this is
That's fun.
yeah, it's just it's a cool aspect of life that we never expected for any of us.
So coming back into the preparation, you know, as you talk, each composer has a different kind of motif. And how much room do you have to interpret the characters then as you go to these different roles? Do you have any freedom, or do you have to kind of stay in the box?
Freedom within a box, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because these composers that I sing, and I sing a lot of new music as well, um, they were so brilliant in writing for the voice and also communicating ideas. So it's all reflected in the vocal line. So you want to respect what they've written and add your own twist on it.
Mhm.
So naturally, because we all have, you know, singers, no singer sounds the same exactly. So that's already, you know, something that differentiates me. Like I have my timbre of my voice and the size and the sound of my voice is different than anyone else's. So that's already kind of a automatic um I guess liberty. But then on top of that, it's like, okay, the conductor wants it, and there's a conducting aspect because they have ideas as well. So the composer wrote this and the conductor wants it like this. But what he's asking for might not feel right for my instrument and my body. So sometimes I might say, do you mind if we take this just a little bit slower or a little bit faster so that I can make it through the phrase? And so there is room. And um, you know, the conductor would be considered the head coach. And so the coach calls the plays. At the same time, I'm the one who has to deliver. So if if the play doesn't really feel, I mean, I don't know how football works actually, but music, if it doesn't quite feel right for me, then we have to talk about it,
You can
you know?
change it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So
That's nice.
there's room, especially if you're working with a, you know, a flexible team.
Well, and I imagine, you know, you're working with your teacher, your coach, and all that to kind of prepare this, and then you walk into day one rehearsal, and the composer or the conductor has a different idea. You've got a negotiation here, right? And as you
Absolutely.
said, it's probably a great thing when you can work together, and it's a tough thing when it's like my way or the highway, right? I hope that doesn't happen, but
It doesn't happen much, but it does
okay.
happen.
I
And then
believe
that's when
you.
you just have to like take some deep breaths. And because as an artist, I mean, I have something to say, you know, so it's like we're not just puppets. And I feel that when you're working with the greatest conductors, they understand that and they're very amenable. They're happy to, you know, be flexible. And also singers, you know, like I prepare months in advance and I have something in my body a certain way, but I'm not so wedded to that idea because I have to be open to another interpretation.
So, Janae, your first big role, somebody had to believe in you and give you that opportunity, and then you went out. What was it like an opening night when you go out there, and it's you're not an extra, you're not in the back. You are the thing. You are the gal. What was that like? You
Wow.
may not even remember it.
I'm trying to remember my very first professional
Yeah,
gig. Yeah, I mean, I do remember feeling like, wow. I
the
mean,
lights
it
are
was
on. Yeah,
yeah. It was so little money, but back then it just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm making money to sing and someone's believing me and cast me in one of like the most amazing roles. It was Knoxville Opera. I'll never forget that. Norma was the opera. And I just remember feeling like I hit the jackpot, you know? Like, and the jackpot was doing what I love and someone giving me a chance and believing me and actually getting paid for it. That was really awesome. So yeah, again, going to this idea of opportunity, Knoxville Opera um, believed in me along with all of my teachers, you know, preparing me for that moment. And that's I think half the battle, just like not only believing in yourself, but having others also lift you up and believe in you.
Speaking of roles, you've had so many. Which one do you think has been the most personally transformative for you?
Mm.
That's a hard question, I know.
Oof. Yeah, that's
like
great. That's a
it's
good
like pick your
question.
favorite child, I mean, do you have one that you like the most or that's really
Well,
made an impact?
well, yes, I will, but not okay. So the role that I sing most is Carmen, and that's made an impact on me just in terms of like owning owning my instrument and myself. I mean, I feel I think I've done 11 or 12 productions of Carmen, and I just like there's nothing like feeling like the feeling of knowing you're going to walk out on stage and just nail it because this is something that you feel so comfortable with. So that's been a really great role because I feel most confident singing that role. Um, Most transformative. Whew, there's a few. Actually, the recent role that I sang, Le Troyen, Berlioz, she's a queen, Queen Didon, that I sing, and she is so dignified and she does everything right. She's a widow and she decides she's not going to get married again. Um, but then her sister convinces her because she's so young and so beautiful that everyone will understand if she wants to be remarried. She doesn't have to be alone. And so she is vulnerable in a way. And she says, okay, I'm vulnerable. She falls in love with this guy. And he ends up leaving and her heart breaks. So I bring this up because that was the most vulnerable role I think I've ever sung. And it allowed me to just like tap into a very vulnerable place that has a very realistic and human journey, that I could really access, I think, differently. So that was really special and informative of the way that I'm going to approach every role. I really had to dig deep for that one and just feel.
So, sort of a different question, but related. What has been the most difficult role? And I would imagine that at the end of one of those performances, you are physically exhausted. And I don't mean only because of the emotions and the stress of having to, get this perfectly right. I mean physically exhausted, right? So tell us about that a little bit. What's the hardest thing?
Well, it's funny because I know I've mentioned Carmen a lot. It's a role that is easy and most difficult, and it's easy because vocally, I can just, like, roll out of the bed singing her, but physically, she is running around the stage the whole time. So, that I will say after I finish a performance of Carmen, I'm like, "Whew, alright, I need I need a massage," because she's she's just so active.
Yeah.
She's dancing, she's fighting. Um, I have to be in my best physical shape to sing that role, and so I train for that role differently. Um because it's a physical beyond the actual singing physicality of it. I'm moving literally the whole time. So I run and sing when I'm training for it
Wow.
or walk on an incline, and that's how I know that I'm, like, ready because it's so physically demanding. I'm being thrown around, and like I said, I have to dance, I have to fight. Um, yeah, it's just a very physical role.
The cardio training for opera.
Yep.
That's what it sounds like. Well, you won a Grammy for Akhenaten. Did I pronounce that
Yes,
correctly?
you did.
And so a Grammy's a big deal, and that's a huge milestone. That must have been wonderful. Can you tell us what you were thinking when that all happened and what that was like?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I still feel like it's so surreal. So I sang the role of Queen Nefertiti in Akhenaten by Philip Glass in 2019 at the Metropolitan Opera, and it was just such an amazing experience. Philip Glass, um, who is still with us, it was just so great to work with him. He's a legend in the opera world and beyond. His music is in movies, and um, there's nothing like working with a living composer. So that was the first really just treat delving into that opera. And it's such a visual, not only an audible, but a visual um, treat. I just was so happy to be a part of it. And then it was my Met debut and singing an African Queen. I just felt like, wow, all of these stars
Yeah.
aligned. It
Wow.
was really, really cool. So when we won the Grammy, I was just like, oh my goodness. It's still very surreal when I look at my Grammy.
Yeah.
It's like,
No
And
look at that
imagine.
thing.
yeah, no, it also just inspired me, to keep going. I try not to really rely on awards and outside
Yeah, but
accomplishments, but it really,
it's a Grammy.
yeah, no, it's a Grammy, and it's also just like kind of a nod in the right direction. It's like, okay, we see you, keep going. You're doing well. So amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
So I think you ought to get a Grammy for when I first saw you, which was at the Kennedy Center Honors. And, it was very simple. You were singing the national anthem with the Marine Corps band backing you up, which had to be pretty cool, I would think.
Very
and
cool.
now you're singing in front of the president and the first lady and a whole host of other, really, really famous people.
Yeah.
Was that that was way different from doing an opera, right?
Oh, that was way different. I was so nervous. Oh my gosh. I don't usually get so nervous. And I was like, there's President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. But I remember just thinking, I'm here for a reason. This is my moment. And so it was exhilarating. And I said, I'm going to channel this nervous energy and just bring down
Belt it
the
out.
house.
You
Yeah,
did.
exactly.
It was wonderful.
Thank you. It was really just such an honor, to sing on that stage with the band. And
I have to tell you, I sat next to that woman at dinner last night, and she's like a perfectly normal, wonderful person, and man, she just killed this thing. So that was great. That was fun to watch.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really fun. I hope it won't be the last. So
You're passionate about pushing yourself to always be better. Culligan's water experts feel the same.
That's why their smart reverse osmosis filtration systems do more than deliver ultra refreshing, pure tasting water. Their app also lets you set drinking water goals, seek water quality information, and get filter change alerts. And with cleaner, safer, great tasting water available right from the tap, you can also feel good about all those single-use plastic bottles you're saving from landfills.
Get started with water you love today. Schedule your free water test at Culligan.com. We're talking a lot about some of the operas, it started in Italy. A lot of them are in French and German. And so shifting forward and trying to connect with modern audiences, what kind of contemporary messages can opera communicate to modern audiences? Because a lot of it's 1700s, 1800s, even early 1900s. But you mentioned you were doing some modern opera as well. So do you think that can attract more young people to the art? Or
absolutely, yeah. I mean, yes, I've been singing a lot of modern or new opera, and I already witness, the audiences that come are younger, are more diverse in every way, and so I think when people um hear their stories and feel seen, they come out. And so there's so many amazing stories, especially American stories that we don't know about. And um, I'm excited because we're in a time where these stories are being told more. And yeah, I think it's going to continue to expand opera because there's this thing that people say like opera's dying and it's not going to last, but it's not true. I don't believe that, first of all, because the art form is so beautiful. I feel like with the traditional pieces as we know them, they're just so gorgeous and timeless. And then when you add on the new stories and the new composers and the new conductors and the new singers, it just is only going to expand, in my opinion. So that's one of my biggest goals, and something that really kind of inspires and motivates me is to collaborate with um, new artists and new stories. I think it's a really exciting time for that. So I want to do it all.
So I would imagine, classical opera is a very, very tradition bound genre where, it's so cool and so impressive and so old that, it kind of has to be done. You talked earlier about freedom in a box, but with some of these newer pieces and even with some of the older pieces, do you find that you're able to stretch the art a little bit, particularly with the newer ones, where you can inject your own style even more forcefully?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
so are you tempted to do other, maybe outside opera a
Genres.
little bit? Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the cool thing about working with living composers and a bit younger composers, I'll say, is that I am creating with them. So they'll send me something and I'll be like, this is cool, but what do you think about this idea? And usually they're open to it. So really, like creating something just a little bit different. And for me, I'm really into cross-genre collaboration. There are artists outside of opera that I really want to work with. I love Coldplay. I love Chris Martin. And I'm like, Chris, let's do something. So I have these,
That would be fun.
yeah, I have these desires to, combine, hip hop and opera or rock and opera and kind of like what Beyonce's doing. I mean, she's, doing like country and I just think that there is a way to do it. Of course, there are opera purists that they don't consider it opera, but that's fine. I mean, I think that um, there's just space for it all. It doesn't mean that the traditional opera has to go away. There's just room for it all, and I'm really excited about just expanding outside of opera, especially because I grew up on non, classical music. So why not bring all of me into it? So I'm definitely delving into that more for sure.
The traditional opera comes with those very elaborate costumes they must weigh a ton.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
but the new operas, I guess, have a little bit more modern take. Do you have some favorite costume? I mean, it's kind of a silly question, but I'm just
No,
curious because
it's not.
they look like it's like sweeping around a stage in a
Oh my
beautiful
God.
dress. Oh my
Yes,
gosh,
sometimes
looks
they
like
are
fun.
so heavy. So the Queen Nefertiti costume that I wore, that was just so cool. The colors and the fabric. I think it weighed about 50 pounds. You know?
It's like walking around
So
in a spacesuit.
Yeah.
Oh wow, is that what they feel like? Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. So yeah, but then there are sometimes some really modern ones. Like I was singing in Hamburg, Germany last summer, and I wanted to take every costume home. They were so cute. And a little bit retro. So it depends on the production. If the director has a more modern take, I could be wearing like a mini skirt or something like that, or a ball gown, like, more traditional gown, which is just so fun to, sing in. You really transform into another world. And that's kind of one of my favorite parts is just getting to dress up in all of these different costumes. I mean, I've played boys where I've been in trousers and I've been in a bald cap before where they have to like put pin my hair up real tight. And so it's really cool just to delve into all of these different worlds and characters. It's fun.
But that says a lot about just how versatile the genre is, because everybody I know when they hear opera, they're thinking the big ball gowns, right? Not
Yeah, but it's
dressed up like a baseball player or in a mini skirt or any of these other things. So it really, more than
yeah,
anything, speaks to how broad it is.
exactly. Very broad. And I mean, I think there was a time like 90s and before where it was just very traditional. But now it's like you don't know what they're gonna want. So we go in as the artist and um, we just are kind of like, we gotta go for it. So
Janae, one of the things we do talk about on the Adrenaline Zone is risk. And I'm just curious, are there any risks that an opera singer experiences that the average listener might not really be aware of? What gets you nervous? What do you have to deal with in terms of risk?
hmm.
Maybe you get sick before the performance.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Or I can't imagine you forget your lines or anything like that. But what
Oh
is
no,
it
that happens all the time.
so you just make it
Really?
up, right?
Yeah, but nobody knows. Nobody, the conductor knows, but
Yeah.
that's why we're professionals because it's like,
There you go.
okay, that happened.
You
Yeah,
deal with
no, but yep, but health for sure. I mean, being a singer is, whew, it's a little stressful because if I don't have my voice, I can't perform, And so staying healthy is just um at the top of my to-dos, especially with traveling and it's really difficult, but I've found my regimen, that I'm sometimes even able to sing sick depending, but that's definitely a risk, the health factor. And what else? I mean, I don't know if it's a risk, but it's definitely a sacrifice. I've missed so many holidays and birthdays, and relationships aren't the easiest, because you're traveling on the road all the time. Um, so those aren't necessarily risks, but definitely not
yeah.
an easy aspect of the thing.
It's the other side of it. So what happened during COVID? Did you guys kind of do online opera the
COVID
way
was
some of
tough.
the Yeah.
Yeah, because, we couldn't gather. We couldn't be in groups. So all of my operas were canceled. Um, some of the companies paid us, some of them didn't. And we just kind of had to reconfigure. So I did a lot of online performances. Did a lot of panels. Couple of companies, LA Philharmonic, that was really cool. They flew me out to sing at the Hollywood Bowl to an empty stadium.
Hmm.
And they simulcast that performance, which was that was special actually. It was really special to do that because I'd never sung for an empty audience before, especially the Hollywood Bowl, which seats however many 20,000, I don't know. So that was cool. And then I just got really creative. I went to Washington, D.C. when we were allowed to travel, and I did this project called Monuments of Hope. And a friend and I, because we were outside, we went to different monuments and we paired songs with it, and he did the video work. So that's really cool. It's on YouTube. You can see that. And we paired songs with the different monuments, which was really powerful. Um, I did this panel. It was also a difficult time because George Floyd, I remember 2020, that was tough. There was just a lot going on. And so I moderated this panel because LA Opera wanted me to sing a virtual recital. And I was so heartbroken. I couldn't sing. I couldn't make music, but I said, I'm open to moderating a panel so we can just talk. And so I gathered some of my closest colleagues and we spoke about what we go through as African American opera singers. Uh, and it was kind of very not kind of, it was very informative and transformative in the classical music world because people see us on stage, and um, we're being applauded and all of that stuff, but it's not always so pretty. And so that was a moment that was very, like I said, transformative in the classical music world because we spoke our truth and then it catapulted a whole initiative in the classical music world, to
Wow, that's
diversify.
powerful.
Yeah, and it's on also on YouTube. If you just search LA Opera panel, Janae Bridges, diversity. Yeah, and so it just kind of sparked this international reckoning actually in the classical music world, and how diversity was just more necessary. So yeah, I did a lot of things during COVID.
Given that, what advice would you give to young artists who are entering classical music? What should they focus on? What should they think about?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
whew, there's so much. I think most importantly, like you have enough to say, like you are enough. I think a lot of times as musicians, we're comparing ourselves to others. I want to be like this singer or this musician or this instrumentalist, and knowing that your voice and your instrument is enough to be heard. There's no one like it. We each have our own personal story and voice to be heard. So that's one thing. And then also, like, if you really want a career in it, you got to put the work in. It doesn't just
Yeah.
happen,
Doesn't happen.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good
You
advice.
I think you're treat it like an athletic endeavor like you have.
Absolutely. You know, it's like the dream is the first step. You got to really want it and love it. And you have to put the work into it, because I think some people think, oh, it's just going to happen. Luck is, a part of the equation, maybe, but controlling what you can is the most important aspect. So, and you can control your practice, you can control the effort that you put in. Um, you can't necessarily control who's going to take interest in you or hire you or give you an opportunity. But if you get the opportunity and you're not ready, none of it matters.
So, Janae, we're close. We're pretty close to the end of the time we have. But I just what I really am curious about is, what is the best way for our listeners to experience your art if they don't live in an area where you perform live? Obviously, they'd be great for them to go see you live. Is there a YouTube of Carmen, or something like that,
Yeah.
where they can actually look at the whole thing?
I don't know if there's a whole thing of Carmen online, but you can certainly YouTube my name, Janae Bridges, and lots of different performances will come up.
Okay.
And yeah, my Instagram, I'm pretty active on that, Janae B. Mezzo. And my website, janaebridges.com, has all of my upcoming performances. Yeah, but I am finally working on my solo album. I've been on so many other people's albums. It's time for me. So there will be that coming soon. And then also,
will that be a selection of solo pieces from operas, or completely different?
yeah, it's going to be that, but I'm still deciding. I'm still curating it, because I think it will be a bit of everything.
Oh, so
but mostly
gonna push the box then, huh?
Yeah, push the
Yeah.
envelope a little bit.
Push
Always
the
got to
envelope.
do
Oh,
that.
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, look,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us. From the moment I met you at the State Department dinner there, I said, I have to get Janae on my podcast, because
thank you.
we love there are lots of different types of people in the world who take risk and
Yes.
who achieve excellence as you have, and it's been a real treat to be able to talk to you.
Thank you, Sandy and Sandra. This has been wonderful, and I'm just so grateful to join you and tell my story a little bit.
I've really enjoyed the conversation. I'm going to go look up all of your videos and
Thank
listen
you.
to your
Yeah.
music.
Next time I'm in DC, I'll definitely let you all know.
Yeah, fantastic.
That was Grammy Award opera singer Janae Bridges. I'm Sandra Magnus.
And I'm Sandy Winnefeld. Thanks again to Culligan for sponsoring this episode. Get exceptional water for exceptional performance. Learn more at culligan.com.
And please pass our podcast around to your friends, and we'll see you soon with another fun episode of The Adrenaline Zone.